My name is Dr. William Courtney. I'm involved in the raw use of cannabis as a dietary essential. In that capacity, you can use 60 times more than you can tolerate if heated, and in that capacity is a very potent anti-inflammatory that will find a very broad population of interest in this country.
I'm Donald Abrams, and I'm Chief of Hematology Oncology at San Francisco General Hospital and a Professor of Medicine at the University of California, San Francisco. I do research in medical cannabis applications. I mean, if cannabis were discovered in an Amazon rainforest today, people would be clamoring to make as much use as they could of all of the potential benefits of the plant. I think, unfortunately, it carries with it, you know, a long, maybe not so long history of being a persecuted plant.
5 years ago, I wouldn't prescribe cannabis for a fellow I went to medical school with because I was such a skeptic. And now it's real clear to me that cannabis, it's a vegetable. It's not psychoactive until humans alter it chemically. No other animal alters it. So the whole psychoactive thing is a human aspect of the plant that has nothing to do with the 34 million years of evolution that the plant has. It's captured these molecules that help our body's regulatory system be more effective. And its bottom line is it's a dietary essential that helps all 210 cell types function more effectively. And so I never even refer to it as medicine anymore. It strictly as a dietary essential. It only becomes a medicine once you have a breakdown and a condition has become very serious and the system, your body's being overwhelmed. Then cannabis can be manipulated, i.e. heated, concentrated, to become a medicine. But in its best form, it's a preventative. And preventing diabetes is a lot better than trying to treat it. Preventing cancer is a lot better than trying to treat it.
I think cannabis is a medicine that is anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and probably has some direct activity against cancerous cells. So,
the federal patent is phenomenal. The Department of Health and Human Services since 2003 has had intellectual property on CBD, and CBD is, is a molecule that's coming out of the shadows from THC. It doesn't produce that psychoactive. The majority of my patients don't want to get high at 8 o'clock in the morning and be high all day long. But a lot of them do have arthritis, car accidents, autoimmune disorders, rheumatoid, and they start out their day in pain, and they're in pain most of the day long. And so they're looking for relief but clarity, and that's what these eating the plant raw. And that's, you not only need CBD. CBD is a non-psychoactive, whether it's CBD acid, which is how it's found in the raw plant, or CBD, which is what happens after you cook it or heat it or steep it or turn it into tea or something. But THC acid is the real tricky molecule in the raw plant, totally non-psychoactive, phenomenally beneficial as a molecule. Once it's heated, it turns into THC, and then the tolerable dose drops from hundreds of milligrams a day to 10. And with 10 milligrams, you stimulate the CB1 receptor, you get that psychoactive effect, either dysphoria or euphoria, but you walk away from 99% of the benefits of this plant, which are bone remodeling, intestinal function, neural function, inflammation control, cancer, precancerous detection. This plant can do phenomenal things, but not if you're taking 10 milligrams rather than the 600 milligrams that the FDA is currently approving as an investigative new drug.
My name is Kristen Piskuski, and I went from being bedridden and on over 40 medications a day to control my health problems to being a mother, to being healthy, happy, and vital thanks to using green leaf that I juice on a daily basis. Yeah, I was diagnosed with lupus and rheumatoid arthritis when I was 16, and then interstitial cystitis, painful bladder condition, endometriosis, cervical cancer. I was told I was sterile and would never have children, and hypothyroidism, chronic infections. I've had 16 surgical procedures, and I'm resistant to most antibiotics and have chronic infections. and I can't take a lot of Western medicine drugs because of the allergies that I have. I also have asthma. I'm allergic to most environmental factors and different skin rashes. And I have a broken back in 3 places.
Man. So how did, how did you discover this new way of juicing?
I discovered cannabis was helpful for the conditions because when I would smoke cannabis for pain, I had fewer infections. So I started to look into whether cannabis was doing more than just masking the pain. And I moved to California to be able to use cannabis legally, but I still didn't have the type of healing that I anticipated with smoked and heated cannabis. So after talking to several cannabis physicians and attending different lectures, I found out that there's the THC acid and CBD acid that you get in the raw form have medicinal properties that are better at helping my immune system to communicate. So as soon as I began doing that, it took about 6 weeks and I was infection-free and all of my conditions went into remission.
And what many of my patients do is they plant a plant every day and they pick a plant every day. If you let the plant grow to a certain size, you may be able to use half a plant a day. So a plant therefore would last for 2 days. So therefore you need 1 plant every other day. So the total number of plants depends on whether you have a plant a day, a plant every other, or a plant every 3 days, depending on the space available. But most of them are trying to do this whole thing on a single 400-watt light. And they use a fluorescent light to keep a mother alive, and they produce a clone. They start a plant. They pick the whole plant, strip the leaf and flower, juice that. Good indication that the roots are also useful. Stalk is a little fibrous, can bind up a lot of juicers and ruin the juicer because it's just so strong. So I generally strip the stalk and throw that away because it's just too fibrous. But juice that, it produces a small amount of juice, very concentrated, quite acidic. Yeah, that has to be diluted. You can dilute it with fresh vegetable juice, fruit juice, or something that you buy off the shelf.
The only time I've needed antibiotics in the last 4 years is when I was unable to do the juicing regime because I was overseas. And it was while I was pregnant for the first time with my daughter Zahaya. And when I came back, I had a horrible sinus infection, and they were unable to treat it with 3 different antibiotics. And the rheumatologist at UCSF I was working with thought that I may need to go back on methotrexate and prednisone. And 3 weeks after I got home and I had been juicing again, everything cleared up and I didn't have to go on any of the drugs or take another antibiotic.
And at this point, I'm developing strains. Yesterday, stumbled on a strain that's 22% CBD acid. The plant that I had the day before that was 1%. A absolutely phenomenal change in the plant's chemical composition, and particularly as it impacts, are you violating federal patents if you're using this plant? I mean, if they're commercially going to use CBD, then you have to deal with a patent. But individual use as a dietary element, the U.S. patent just is clear evidence as to why you want to eat this plant as a leafy green vegetable and include it in your diet several times a day.
I depend on right now on people who give me leaf because my partner is a cannabis physician and we worry about the legalities of growing our own right now and whether it could jeopardize his medical license. But we have a lot of patients that are able to grow less than 30 plants, and this allows them a fresh plant every day for juicing.
My #1 project is to get the Convention 1 treaty, which is a UN committee that produced this treaty that I think there's 104 countries that have signed on to it, which says if you have, grow, possess, transport cannabis, you should be imprisoned. And that is the document that every country in this world pounds people into the ground, cuts their heads off, and imprisons them. And so you take this information that unheated, it's not psychoactive, it's a vegetable that improves the function of your immune system and bone metabolism and musculoskeletal. Once the world knows that it's a vegetable, that's all it is. most important vegetable on the planet, then these various things that are in place that prohibit people from having access will change. And so one of my agendas now is to try to get the treaty amended to remove cannabis, so that cannabis can be available to everyone in the world as a dietary supplement.
And anyone who knows somebody who's sick, who has a loved one with an illness, or themselves has suffered from one, understands that there are more important things to look at, and we have to be able to adapt. If what we're doing doesn't fit with what's needed in the world today, if how we make our living isn't supporting, it's not sustaining people's health, then we need to be able to grow and adapt and change.
You don't want to go from, I guess a lot of incarcerations to suddenly, it's a dietary essential. I mean, how do you make that leap? And so I'm hoping that we're in a phase where, we're gradually letting go of yesterday's nightmares and embracing the fact that, it's patented for its benefits, it's approved of by the FDA, and in fact is clearly a dietary essential that should be in everyone's diets. And so I'm hoping that the DEA, which is lagging behind, will on cue with the whole organization decide that, okay, well, let's go ahead and reschedule this, because clearly we can't have a patent on its utility and say it has no utility. I mean, the conflict is just, it's patently absurd.